Welcome to College Football Tonight, and this is a presentation of the JJ Sports coverage of College Football Tonight. And we had a great championship Saturday today. It was phenomenal, and it's just the start of a great month of college football to come until we get to the new year, and then we got our college football playoff games and so much more to come in the months ahead. Let's start with the big championships that took place last night, and it was Oregon winning over USC. It was UAB over Marshall, Ball State over Buffalo, all last night. I don't know what to tell you, but it was very, very interesting to see a lot of road teams winning, and certainly teams that weren't expected to win. Ball State completing a great season. Unbelievable. Nebraska beating Rutgers. And it always comes to the question of, are Friday night games, are they good or are they not? And in a season where fans really aren't being allowed, Friday night games aren't so bad. Now going into today's games, we'll get to those Power 5 championships in just a moment, but let's start with games that were not Power 5 championships. Texas A&M took on Tennessee today, and they put on a good performance, 34-13 over the Vols. And after that performance, it's pretty clear that A&M Aggies, the Aggies believe that they should be in the playoff, and it's hard to say that they don't deserve a spot in the playoff. It's hard to say that they're not deserving, but there are a lot of teams that do believe they're deserving as well, like Ohio State and Notre Dame. Get to those teams in just a moment. But Texas A&M, they didn't screw around with playing against Tennessee. It was a good performance. Utah beat Washington State. That was pretty known. Army beat Air Force. Mississippi State beat Missouri as I expected. LSU beat Ole Miss. I predicted that one as well. Wisconsin beating Notre Dame and Wisconsin beating Minnesota, I should say, in overtime. That was a that was a pretty good game. San Jose State wins the Mountain West. Penn State beat Illinois today. Stanford beating UCLA in a double overtime thriller earlier tonight. And of course, we'll get to more of championships and post game coverage in a moment. But we want to acknowledge that this season was very much up in the question of whether it could even happen or not. But there has been a tremendous amount of support for the ability to get through the season and get to the finish line. And it is uh, an impressive accomplishment to have done this in a year with so many unprecedented things going on. And, if you can do this, you can do a lot of other stuff. I expect people to be even more confident with things that maybe are not related to sports. Maybe everyone thinks that they can do other things. But let's get into these championships. Today, we had the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma beating Iowa State. This was a game where Oklahoma could have gotten into a rhythm, and they just didn't. This was a very evenly matched game. Iowa State won an evenly matched game in the first one. Oklahoma wins this one. I think it's 1A and 1B in the Big 12 this year. Oklahoma really not separating themselves like in years past, and that is alarming if you're an Oklahoma fan because you really wanted to see your team dominate, but that just didn't happen. It really just didn't. All right, now on to the Big Ten championship. Ohio State Northwestern was a very good game for most of it, and then it was Trey Sermon, who is a dominant player, who I believe he went to the playoff with Oklahoma a few times, and I don't know. Justin Fields may not be their most powerful weapon, but can people stop Trey Sermon? Like that was 300 yards against the Northwestern defense, which had been pretty good up to this point. And a lot of credit has to go to the O line. A lot of credit has to go to everybody else, but it doesn't really matter in the end because Ohio State won, and I expect a lot of uh, people in the Big Ten country to support Ohio State and put them into the playoff. And how are these people going to vote? How are the committee members? I believe it's like a 13-member committee that votes on who goes to the college football playoff. And is there going to be support for Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Ohio State? Those are really the three teams that have an opportunity to get into the college football playoff at this point. You can make an argument for Florida, sure. They are a two-loss team, and it's just extremely hard to get into the playoff as a two-loss team. But it's also a year where they played 10 conference games plus the SEC championship in the SEC. All right, let's get on moving on to another championship game. I mentioned earlier, San Jose State won the Mountain West, but the big one today, Clemson over Notre Dame, 34-10. A dominant performance solidifies Clemson's spot in the college football playoff. And a lot of people expected this and said this was going to be a dominant performance and it was going to be just the end of Notre Dame's everything. It was going to just take Notre Dame out of the playoff if they didn't show up. But this was this was a sizable victory for Clemson, and Notre Dame can have their argument they should be in the playoff, but Clemson's in, Bama's in, and there's not really much else anyone can say. But obviously, you can argue about everything else, and this is really what 2020 has been: is an argument about this, that, and the other, about really what's right, what's wrong. All right. Anyway, let's go to another championship game. Cincinnati beating Tulsa. This was another tight game. Cincinnati completes their perfect season, but they'll fall short of the playoff. They hadn't played in quite a while. So, with all that said, I probably should have a top four. And number one, I got Bama. Number two, I've got Clemson. Number three, uh, I will have to probably put Ohio State at three. And at four, I got to put Notre Dame. Now, the reason why I would leave out Texas A&M is because they didn't go to a conference championship. Their win against Florida team isn't quite as good as it was 2-3 weeks ago, but you can make an argument for Texas A&M more than you could 24 hours ago, and it really has been a great season for them. And I wouldn't be disappointed if a Notre Dame team got left out, but I would be kind of frustrated if an Ohio State team got left out. How hard they fought to get to this point in the season, and it has been a rough go. It has been a rough season for them. And do I think Ohio State is the best team? No. But are they one of the four best teams? They definitely have an argument. Is Northwestern a bad team? No. Northwestern's a good team. Probably just as good as an Oklahoma on a good day. And this was Northwestern can play up to the competition of an Ohio State, similarly to how we've seen Iowa play. Them was it like 3 years ago when Iowa took care of Ohio State. And I think we forgot to mention it, but Alabama winning 52-46 over Florida, a high scoring affair in the SEC championship. That was a lot of points put on the scoreboard uh, in that one. But anyway, the committee will have their selection and we'll have to respect the decision that they make, as really we don't have any other choice but to respect their decision. All right. I think we've covered pretty much everything we can cover. Right after this, tell you what's going on tomorrow, selection show. Welcome to championship weekend of college football. Most likely, I will be the champion of the picks.